to get us. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here for our Regeneration space for educators. This is a very chill, low-key conversation that we're going to have today. And I just want to hold some space for educators to take a moment, take a breath, and just be here together today. A couple of housekeeping things. You can turn on the closed captions on Zoom. On your control panel, there should be a little rectangle that says CC or closed captions. You should be able to turn that on. And you are under zero obligation or expectation to be on video if you don't want to be. We'd love to see your smiling faces, but absolutely zero pressure to be on video. And yeah, it's going to be a very chill conversation today. So I really appreciate y'all being here with me. Let's see. So I wanted to start our conversation with this visual because this is my favorite GIF in all the world. And there's a few different ways that we can use this, but one of the most common ways is to encourage folks to sync their breathing to the expansion and contraction of the different shapes. I know controlling breath can be difficult for some folks or challenging. So if you don't want to change how you're breathing, that's totally fine. You can just follow these happy shapes as they expand and contract and go from being a triangle to, I think it ends up being like an octagon, maybe more than that. Maybe it's an octagon. How many math teachers here? But yeah, we've got a couple folks trailing in, not a problem at all. You are right on time and we appreciate you being here with us. And so, yeah, we're just going to ease into this conversation. If you don't already have water to hydrate you while you're in our conversation, if you don't have a pen or pencil and some paper, even if it's just like a couple of sticky notes, there's just a couple of notes that I'm going to ask y'all to jot down during our time together. And now is a great time to just like take that moment, grab those things that you'll need to be comfortable for the next hour or so. So welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time for yourself, because we know so much of your time goes to your students, your community, your school, and it's really important that we're taking this time for ourselves as well. So thank you for being here. I am Kjover Frederick. You can call me Kjover, you can call me Frederick. Either one is totally fine. My pronouns are they and them in English. If you speak Spanish, ella y le, por favor. My email is here. It's kjover.frederick@sandyhookpromise.org, which is really, really long, so I will drop it in the chat for y'all. I'm the Associate Director of Education Programs here at Sandy Hook Promise. So to start today, I would love for y'all to drop in the chat. You're welcome to come off mute if you would like to, but I would love for y'all to drop it in the chat as well. What is your connection to community like lately? So we've got 9 options here, and if it's something that's not on this screen, you can definitely type it out in words on the chat too. You don't have to just use the numbers. But number 1 here is, a happy group, tight-knit group of just a couple of people. So you've got, community is just, those couple of friends that you can really rely on. The second picture here are buddies that you hang out and do fun stuff with. These folks are playing video games. Number 3 is if you have community members who are really engaged in kind of like activism from that community standpoint. So whether that's going to protests, whether that's your church or religious community, just really kind of that activism community. Number 4 is if you belong to a sports team or a club or anything like that, where you get kind of a larger group of people together to do things regularly and join in. 5 is kind of similar, but it's a little bit more geared towards like outdoorsy, like if you have a community garden where you regularly go and work with people. 6 is if you feel like your main connections are online. I know a lot of us, including everyone at Sandy Hook Promise, we all work from home. And so a lot of our connections are those through the computer screen connections, whether that's one-on-one or in these larger groups. 7 is if you have, a large group of friends in your community, you regularly get together for dinners or to go out, those kind of things. 8 is if you are feeling like you don't really have a lot of community right now, because I know that that's the case for a lot of folks too. And then 9 kind of represents if you have just that one person that you lean on who you can call up any time of day, vent, talk to about what's going on in your life. So I'd love for y'all to share in the chat just any one of these numbers or something else. What is your connection to community like lately? And I'll stop talking and give y'all a minute to think about it. Ooh, we've got a number of numbers here. 4, 6, 7, and 9. All right, so some sports, some internet, some digital friends, the community dining. I love that. And then 9, the BFF. I'd love to see that. That's awesome. That's awesome. 1, 4, sometimes 8. I appreciate the honesty. Yeah. Yeah. A couple of good friends, sometimes some sports, and sometimes some loneliness. I think that's super real. I think that's how a lot of folks feel. But I am glad to see that it's not just 8 and that you're not feeling that super alone kind of in the dark place right now. Thanks for sharing, y'all. So as we move through our conversation today, I would encourage y'all to think about your connection to community and what that looks like, and if there are places in your life where you might have easier access to build a little bit more community, if there are people who you could reach out to and connect with more, that you have folks that that they would be receptive. If you said, hey, I'd love to, go run errands with you, or it would be really great if you could come over and sit with me while I fold my laundry. If you know that you have those people in your life, like let them do you the favor of showing up for you. Community is really important, and community is why we're here. So we are Sandy Hook Promise, y'all know. We are a nonprofit organization led by several family members who lost loved ones at the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting on December 14th, 2012. And since then, let me go back. I don't need to annotate it. Since Sandy Hook Promise was founded, we have been on a mission to help prevent the kind of violence that took so many people from Newtown, Connecticut. And so that is one of the things that we're doing here today, is that violence prevention work. So super quickly, I want to go through our community agreements. We ask folks to be fully present and take care of yourselves, especially today. That's what this conversation is all about, is taking care of yourself. Please respect confidentiality, practice empathy and non-judgment, use I statements. We encourage folks to practice take space and make space. And so if you are someone who speaks up really easily, give folks around you a second to speak up. And if you're someone who might take a little bit more time to percolate, we really do encourage you to kind of push yourself towards your comfort edge there and participate, because everyone's voices are important and we really do want to hear from everybody. Assume good intent and lean into discomfort with curiosity. I hope that we won't have too much of that in this conversation, because this is supposed to be a space where we can just kind of breathe together and relax. But we do ask folks to take responsibility for impact. And because we are in the virtual world, we do ask folks to stay muted when not speaking, just so we don't get a lot of that like background noise that comes up. So one of the things, there we go. Our mission, as I said, is to educate and empower youth and adults to prevent violence in schools, homes, and communities. And one of the ways that we do that is through our education around the warning signs of violence. I'm not going to go through all of these. I know that there is a ton of text on this slide and it is not the most accessible. But the reason that I included this in this conversation today about regeneration and about having that space for educators to really take a breath and be inward focused is because we know that if educators are struggling, if you're exhausted, if you're burnt out, you're going to be less likely to be able to notice these warning signs in your students. And when we do this work to take care of ourselves, it can actually serve as that violence prevention. So I really wanted to make sure that these warning signs are in here so that we can remember that this is one of the reasons that we're doing this. And because of the great work that we have done at San Diego Promise, more than 23 million students and educators have been trained in our Know the Signs program. More than 5,000 Save Promise clubs exist nationwide in elementary, middle, and high schools. We have received over 265,000 anonymous tips from from students and adults across the country in our anonymous reporting system. We've helped over 5,800 students during mental health crisis interventions. We've saved at least 680 youth from suicide. And the last one here is a really big number, and it's a big deal. We have prevented at least 17 credible planned school shooting attacks with the work that we're doing. So your work, you being here today, is literally life-saving. So thank you again for being here with us. All right. I would love for y'all to throw in the chat, and I know that this is a totally random slide. I would love for y'all to throw in the chat adjectives, grade numbers, like grade levels, school subjects, hobbies, the name of a celebrity, your favorite celebrity, your least favorite celebrity, either one, an animal, a couple of colors, a couple of patterns, a couple of body parts, a couple of adverbs. I need a past tense verb and a present continuous verb, an ing verb, and an article of clothing. So I'm going to stop talking, give y'all a moment, throw any or all of these things in the chat, and we can keep this going as we are we're talking throughout the conversation. And we'll come back towards the end of our time together to read through our communal story with all of these different inputs that y'all added to it. So I'm going to stop talking for a moment. I'll copy this list into the chat for you, but feel free to just throw in whatever random words come to mind. So I will come back in just a moment. All right, so I dropped this list in the chat, and we can be collecting these words as we're going through. So we want to keep it PG, but any adjectives, any adverbs, body parts, animals, colors, anything that comes to mind, we're going to be putting together our communal story at the end of our conversation together, and I will need y'all's help with that. So please feel free to drop your words in the chat as we go along. All right, next up, I wanted to introduce y'all to the tree of contemplative practices. And I will drop the link in the chat for this as well, because it is a really wonderful way to think about how different methods of connection and awareness. And so on this graphic, the roots of the tree, one of the roots is communion and connection, and then the other root is awareness. And then the major branches that are coming off of the tree are stillness, generative, creative, activist, relational, movement, and then ritual or cyclical. And then on each of those branches, there's lots of different ways to practice contemplation, mindfulness, meditation in some form or another. And so it's everything from yoga on the movement branch, to silence on the stillness branch. On the activist branch, you've got work and volunteering. On the creative branch, you've got music and singing. And so I love this visual specifically to show that there are so many different ways that we can take care of ourselves and be really intentional about how we're showing up in a space. And it doesn't have to be just traditional mindfulness, sitting on a cushion, eyes closed. It totally can be, and mindfulness and meditation are fabulous, but there are lots and lots of other ways to do this work as well. All right, let me see if this is going to work. All right, so as y'all can see, this is one of my favorite videos on YouTube, and it's called Virtual Hike near a river through the forest. It's the Baker River Trail and Chain Lake Trail. And so this is a whole channel of YouTube videos where the person just walks through the forest, and they have other stuff where it's like drone footage of islands, and there's lots of different places, but the hikes I feel like are one of my favorite things, especially these that don't have music, because you can actually hear the birds, you can hear the animals, you can hear the crunch of the footsteps on the leaves, and using these, I've got dual monitors set up here, and so having the hike on my secondary monitor if I don't need it for work, and just being able to kind of virtually go through nature while I'm at work can be really helpful, especially if my main screen is spreadsheets or things that are really kind of boring or stressful. The other links that I have got an honorable mention on here are explore.org, which is all live cams. So if you want to watch bald eagles up in the treetops, or if you want to watch the big brown bears up in Alaska, or kittens or puppies, there's all kinds of live cams all over the country, all over the world actually, on explore.org. And then the other one that I have here is the Monterey Bay Aquarium live cams. There is a live cam from Monterey Bay Aquarium, where it's just Monterey Bay. And so you can just watch the waves come in. You can hear the seagulls. You can listen to the waves. You can see the little sailboats go by. And it's really peaceful. But they also have jellyfish cam, which can be super mesmerizing. But there's lots of different options for live cams and recorded videos that can be helpful to remind you of our connection to nature when you're stressed out, when you just need some visuals in the background. These are also great in your classroom if you want quiet time, but you don't want it to be silent in your classroom. Most of the live cams don't have sound, but some of them do. So play around with that, see which ones you like the best. But the hikes, a lot of them do have audio. And like I said, it can be a great tool to put up in your classroom and let your students explore the forest with you. It's just so beautiful. And it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. And so there are hikes of all kinds of different lengths. But this one, again, is my favorite. And this channel has a lot of other options too. All right. So I asked y'all to bring with you, or to grab when we started, something to write with and something to write on. And so this is our first writing prompt. So I am going to give y'all 3 minutes, so that'll take us to 25 after. And I would love for you to write down someone you are grateful for. And so the sentence structure we're using is I am grateful for someone's name because, and then I want you to physically write out why you were grateful for this person. What is it about them that you love, that you're grateful for? What do they do for you? What do they mean to you? Who are you grateful for and why? So I'll give you 3 minutes to write that down, and I'll go back to the hike so we can watch the hike while we're going. Right. That was our 3 minutes. And I would love if I have a volunteer, and totally no pressure if not. If you don't want to share, that's totally fine. But I would love if I could have a volunteer to come off mute and tell us who you're grateful for and why. No need to raise your hands.
I'll share.
Thanks.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep, you're great.
I'm grateful for, should I just say the name?
Yeah, that's totally good.
For Olivia, because she's smart, emotionally mature, independent, loving, honest, brave, and resourceful.
Oh my gosh, that is such a wonderful list of adjectives. I hope Olivia is here and listening and knows how you feel.
She's not, but okay.
Well, that is a great note to share with Olivia, and you can let Olivia know that, it came up during the conversation, and I wanted to make sure to reach out and let you know that I am grateful for you because of all of these amazing things. Olivia sounds like an incredible person.
Yes, I shall. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing. Would anybody else like to share? No pressure.
I'll share. I think it's such a great activity. It definitely it affects your brain immediately when you start thinking about someone you're grateful for. So I said I'm grateful for my mother, because despite our ages and how we're aging, I've been visiting her because I've had to work where she lives, and she still takes pride in taking care of me by making me feel comfortable in her house. And I just wrote the whole list of things that she's been doing that goes above and beyond, to make me feel welcomed at home and just so, so loved. So.
Oh, I love that. That's so wonderful. And I appreciate that you took the time to write out all of those things too. And I agree. I think it really does do something wonderful for our brains when we get in that space. We're like, oh, I really am grateful for this person.
Yeah, it's almost like you can't stop smiling as you're
Right.
writing.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing. All right, so I want to switch gears just a little bit and move on to our one of the resources that y'all have access to as long as you're registered for our National Days of Action. And I will share the link in the chat for that as well. But if you register and if this will let me do it, it is not cooperating. Let's see. If you are registered for our National Days of Action, you can get access to belonging boosters like this one that we have from Avery. Avery is one of the high school students on our national teen board. And these belonging boosters are designed to look like Pokemon cards. So the students get really excited about them. But they are a great way to engage your students, but they have questions on them that you can totally use with your friends, your family, your colleagues, or you can use these as like journaling prompt reflection questions for yourselves. And so this belonging booster that Avery created, the discussion question is, which article of clothing have you had the longest? And Avery's answer, like always, warms my heart every time I read this card. Avery says, the flare jeans are hand-me-downs from my mom. I waited so long for them to fit. I love them as a symbol of our bond because growing up, it was just the two of us. She first wore the jeans as a young woman in Mexico, and she left that world behind so I could have a brighter future as a young woman in America. And so these belonging boosters are tremendous because when you read these stories, you immediately learn that Avery is the child of a single mother. She's the child of an immigrant. She's a Latina woman. And the fact that the longest article of clothing that she's had has such meaning for her. And it's not some expensive bougie, ball gown, really makes this conversation accessible to all of your students if you're using these in class, and to all of your colleagues if you're doing this kind of thing in a staff meeting. And then the back of the card is the second picture here, and that's kind of the about me for Avery, because we get asked all the time, like, are these real people? And yes, Avery is a real person, and we include everyone's favorite food on the belonging boosters just as a real nod to the fact that they are actual humans. And so Avery's favorite food is Venezuelan arepas. So love the belonging boosters. There's tons of them, which is one of the reasons that I wanted to make sure that y'all have the link for that so you can get registered and get access to all of those. All right. So I do want to encourage y'all to keep dropping your adjectives, grade numbers, school subjects, all those things in the chat. You can send them to me directly. You can send them in the chat to everyone, but I want to make sure that we're collecting all of those words for our communal story as we go along. So if your favorite clothing pattern comes to mind while we're talking, feel free to just drop it in the chat. You don't have to give us any context. I'll get it. But for now, we all know that laughter is the best medicine. And so I would love to hear, what is your favorite joke? And again, please try to keep it PG. But what is your favorite joke? You can come off mute, you can drop it in the chat, and I will share mine in just a minute. So my favorite joke is, what do you call a tomato in a cape? Any guesses? So what do you call a tomato in a cape? Super tomato. Duh. But this is a two-part joke. So what do you call a lemon in a cape? I am going to ask you to come off mute for this one.
A super lemon.
That would be the obvious answer, but it's a lemon dressed up as super tomato.
Okay.
Thank you for playing along. It is my all-time favorite joke. It works with anyone of any age. You can do it in any language. It makes it so easy. I love that joke. So if y'all have great jokes that are audience friendly, please feel free to drop those in the chat too.
You made me realize I don't have any jokes. I'm like, I have zero. I think I need a joke.
I don't either.
Not a problem. All right. So I also wanted to share with y'all Insight Timer. If you are not already signed up for Insight Timer, it is completely free. And there are tens of thousands, if not more, free meditations on Insight Timer. Everything from just music to guided meditations on all different kinds of topics. This photo on the left here is actually a screenshot of my screen. I've been using Insight Timer every day. I want to say I'm at like 2,200 something days of using Insight Timer consecutively. Like I use it all the time. And the laughter meditation that's at the top here by Sarah Cohen is so funny. Like you can't listen to it and not laugh. And then the other meditations that I included in this screenshot are meditations that I found that were all very highly rated. So these are all rated 4.5 stars or above. And they're for educators and teachers specifically. And so the one here by Ashley Tucker is a 4-minute guided meditation, and it's affirmations for educators and teachers starting their day. The one by Nicholas Mann is affirmations for school teachers and educators. That one's a little bit longer. It's 13 minutes if you've got time for that. The morning meditation for teachers by Anne Vladarchki. Vladarchki. Maybe. It's a lot of letters there. That morning meditation for teachers is 3 minutes, and that one's rated at 5 stars. The one by Danielle N is a reflection practice for teachers. That one's 9 minutes. And then the last one is also by Danielle, and it's intention setting for teachers, another 9-minute meditation. So even if you don't have an adorable Shiba Inu to sit next to you while you meditate, Insight Timer has tons of different things. These are the ones that are specifically for educators that were highly rated that I found that were under 20 minutes. But there are tons and tons and tons of resources on Insight Timer. And I do not work for them. They have not paid me. They have not paid me to tell you how great they are. But I do use it all the time and I love it. All right. So another element of well-being, we all know that sleep is super important. And I would love for y'all to please share in the chat. Again, this is a 2-part question. Question 1, how many hours of sleep is your ideal? And question 2, how many hours of sleep do you get on an average school night? So for me, I think my ideal is probably around 10 hours because I am part sloth. And on an average school night, I probably get 7 if I fall asleep quickly. I have a hard time falling asleep. So yeah, my ideal sleep and my real sleep is not always aligned. Yes, Why Did the Chicken Cross the Road is a classic. It should be in everyone's repertoire, and there are so many great answers to it. Ideal is 9, and average school night is 7. Yeah. Ideal is 8, closer to 7, 7.5. Okay, so we're getting closer. But I feel like I am seeing what I expected to see, which is that no one is meeting their ideal. On average, we're all getting less sleep than we would like to be getting or than we should be getting, than our bodies are telling us that we need. And I don't have any advice for you. There are all kinds of things on the internet about sleep hygiene, how to get more sleep, all those things. Yeah, would like 9, get at least 7. So yeah, it's not, huge discrepancies, but none of us are getting our ideal number of hours of sleep every night. And I think it catches up to us eventually. And that sleep deficit can be really challenging. But again, I don't have any advice for you, but I do think that it's helpful for us to just be aware of it, be thinking about what our sleep habits look like, and if there are ways that we can improve those. So thank you for playing along. And if you would grab your pencil and paper again, our second journal prompt is I am grateful for a thing or object because, and this can be anything sentient or not. I think when I wrote this originally, I was thinking like a non-sentient thing, but if you want to be grateful for your pets or your plants, that totally works too. But this time I'm going to give you, I guess we can do another 3 minutes. And I will type this in the chat. And in 2 minutes, I will move on to the next slide and it will make sense when I do it. But we'll have until 40 after. All right, 1 minute more for that. And while we have that 1 minute, I am going to turn on some music so we can have a 1 minute dance party so you can boogie a little bit while you are finishing up your journal prompts. No, ended abruptly. But I wanted to make sure that we got some music in there. We had a little dance party going. So once again, I would love to have y'all come off chat and come off chat, come off mute and tell us if you are so open to sharing something that you are grateful for and why.
I'll go. Because I would have said the pet, but since I was like, you know what, let's try something other than the pet. So I am grateful for my laptop and Wi-Fi because it gives me the freedom to work remotely as well as in person and the access to the tools that allow me to live out my life purpose. So
I love that. That's a great way to bring that mindfulness into the everyday and like what we're doing, what we're using on a regular basis. Yeah, I am probably not as as grateful or appreciative of my computer as I should be, but I am very grateful for it. So thanks for the reminder.
now you will be.
I know.
I said, can you hear me? Mhm. Oops. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can,
Oh,
Linda.
okay. I can't see. Okay, I said I'm grateful for my family because they are my whole life, my greatest pride and joy, and my dream come true. Oh, I don't know where
I
I want.
love that. That's so sweet.
Thank you.
How many, like, tell us a little bit about your family. How many people, are we going up, down, out, sideways?
Well, I really meant I have one child. I'm an older mom. She's 27, and I have a husband. And so that three people make up my family. And I didn't think I was going to get married, and I didn't think I was going to have a child. So it all worked out. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else want to jump in? And again, no pressure. All right, and last chance for to add in your if you would like to add words to our communal story. I've been collecting some as we're going, but if you have adjectives, body parts, patterns of shirts or clothing, I can drop them in the chat one more time. If you want to get in on our communal story here, feel free to add your words to the chat. Otherwise, I will wrap up adding in people's contributions as we go, and then I will have it on the screen for you in just a moment. Funny, curious, serious science, knitting koala, beige brown ear eye, cheering scarf. I love it. Let's see where I can fit these in here. All right, I need a past tense verb, please. I need an ED. Studied, exercised. Let's see. I like exercised. And I need an adverb, please. Ends in ly, an adverb. Seriously, I like it. Popularly. I like these. Y'all are creative. All right, I think that is all of these. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment so I can refresh my screen and make sure that our story here is updated. We'll do that. Oh, come on, computer. You can do it. You can do it. Almost. All right. And we made it, and we're going to share the screen one more time. All right. Our communal story. There once was a very curious teacher who taught second grade and 117th grade. The teacher was an expert in biology and loved to can fruit after school. Some people said the teacher looked like The Rock. The school's mascot was a koala, so all the students had to wear beige clothes as their uniform, but the teacher always wore orange. One day, students noticed that their very flexible teacher was all mixed up. Wearing paisley and checkers together was silly, but the red marker all over the teacher's ear was what really worried them. "Excuse me, teacher," said one of the students quickly. "Are you okay? You've got some ink on your eye, and your shirt is inside out, and you seem a little serious." The teacher looked down and exercised. "So it is. I've been very busy lately, and I must have been cheering this morning." "That's okay," said another student popularly. "Sometimes my scarf ends up inside out too." I always loved these as a student, so I wanted to make sure that we took the time to do one together as adults. And I just wrote this script and popped everybody's ideas into it. And this is definitely something you can customize for yourself, for your community, for your students. Lots of different ways to do it. All right, our last journal prompt for today, and this one I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I am grateful to myself because I. Why are you grateful for yourself? What are you doing for yourself that you are grateful for? 2 minutes. All right, that was 2 minutes. I hope that after having done the journal prompts for the first two, that this one felt a little quicker and easier to jump to. I don't know if y'all can hear it. There is this super loud frog outside my house. Spring has already sprung here in Northern California. So I apologize if you can hear my amphibian friend. So I would love to hear if I have some volunteers, and again, no pressure. What are you grateful to yourselves for?
Okay. This was the hardest one.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm grateful to myself because I am in a good place. I've dedicated my adult life to helping children. I have a sense of love and belonging, and my intention is to keep trying new things.
Oh, I love that. Thank you, Linda. Rosa says, "I am grateful to myself because I am always trying my best." That's fantastic. That is all we can ask of ourselves. Thank you for sharing, y'all. All right. So next, I wanted to offer up this slide here. This is the stages of burnout. Oh, we got another answer in the chat. Rebecca says, "I'm grateful to myself because I am working so hard on being the best version of myself so I can support those I love and my community to be their best." Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I am glad that you are doing all of those things for yourself and your community as well. Thank you for sharing. So This slide here is the stages of burnout. Experts argue that there are anywhere from 5 to 12 stages of burnout, depending on who you ask. And so starting from the very beginning signs, that compulsive ambition, sometimes that can sound like I have to prove myself. That can move into working harder, I got to do more, neglecting our own needs, I don't have time for that. Avoiding conflict, there's nothing wrong. Number 5 is really interesting to me, revising values. So that can sound like this is more important. And that one in particular is like piques my interest because one of the foundational pieces of our Foundations of Social Isolation training is helping educators understand your own values and then helping you figure out how to do those activities with your students so that your students can actually name and lean on their values too, because we know like there's tons of research that shows how important being values centered is and what a bolster that is when we're faced with tough decisions if we can lean into our values. And so I was really like struck when I saw this in the stages of burnout that like we revise our values to fit the situation, which we know is not how values are intended to work. Number 6 is denying problems. So the problem is others. Withdrawal can look like I need time alone. Number 8 is concerning others. And so I'm fine, stop worrying. That goes into depersonalization. I just need to make it through today. Sense of emptiness. I don't feel much anymore. Depression, nothing really matters. And then the final stage of burnout is I can't go on. And I think about burnout when I think about people. I've been in nonprofit work for a long time, and I know a few different nonprofit leaders who have actually like been hospitalized from the stress that they were under. And it makes me think of that saying that if you don't take time off, your body will do it for you. And I think that it's important for us to really be thoughtful and mindful about where we are, how we're taking care of ourselves. If you are dealing with burnout, where if you're anywhere on this list in the stages of burnout, trying to recognize that, and there is some help to come back from that. But one of the reasons that I use this image in particular on this slide is clearly these trees have been burned. This is a forest fire image, but at the bottom, we have all of these beautiful blooming, flowering plants. And so the idea of post-traumatic growth as opposed to post-traumatic stress is really something that speaks to me from a psychological perspective. And I love the idea that you can come out of adversity stronger. But I also really want to emphasize that self-care will never replace community care, and it's unhelpful to act like we can bubble bath our way out of systems and structures of inequality and oppression. So don't ever feel like you have to do this alone, even if it feels like you're doing it alone, because we know that that's how a lot of folks are feeling. So I wanted to add Pusheen here to show us, to illustrate the different components of well-being. And again, experts argue that there are 5 to 8 major components of well-being, depending on who you ask. And so our little crying Pusheen is emotional well-being. The pizza-loving Pusheen I used for the physical. Pusheen gleefully jumping on the delete button. I'm totally like prescribing emotions to Pusheen here. Is occupational. Pusheen on the cell phone is social. I used Pusheen like in the box for the spiritual because I really do feel like for some cats, like the box is a spiritual experience. Like if any cat owners, like, you know, sometimes like your cat just needs a box. Intellectual, I've got Pusheen on the laptop. Environmental, Pusheen's taking a nap. And financial, Pusheen is being showered in rose petals, which would be really nice if our finances all allowed for all of us to be so serene and spa-like. But thinking about all of these different areas of your life, and this one I'm not going to ask y'all to share aloud, but for you, think about what areas of your well-being would you give a 5-star review right now? If any. I'm looking at this and realizing that I don't know that I can give any of my areas of well-being a 5-star review at this moment. So then I guess my follow-up question is, are there components of your well-being where you could make a small change and squeeze another star or even another half star out of your well-being pretty easily? And so we all talked about our sleep not being quite what our ideal would be. And so can we squeeze another half star out of our sleep and try to practice those little bit better sleep hygiene patterns? Can we try to get a little bit more sleep? Emotional, spiritual, environmental, and financial 5 stars. Wow. Wow, Rebecca, that's super impressive. How are you doing it? Totally no, I'm joking. You don't have to tell us, but I would love to know. So just something to think about. It's been a long time coming. I'm sure that you have put in a lot of work to get to that point. But yeah, think about your emotional well-being. Think about where you would give, how many stars you would give on each of these things, and if there is a way that you can bump that rating up just a little bit. I wanted to share, I know we are just about at time and we're going to go over just a minute or two, but I wanted to share this game with y'all. It's called What If Up. And it was created by Mendy Alduin in the book What If It All Goes Right? And so it is characterized by positive framing, creative thinking, and being action oriented. And so instead of going into that really negative spiral of, oh, like, I want to pitch this idea to my boss. Like, what if they hate it? Like, what if they think it's stupid? What if they think I'm stupid? What if they fire me and then I lose my job and I'm out on the streets and I'm homeless and you just spiral. And that is the way the human brain works because we are constantly on alert for danger. And so we have to actively challenge the way our brains work. So what if up? So what if you present this idea to your supervisor and they love it and everything goes according to plan? And what if it goes so well that you get picked up by the local news station and then Oprah hears about it? What if Oprah loves it? And then what if it becomes a household name? What if everyone in the world knows that you created this thing? It's amazing. So what if up? Really fun, great to do in a group, and you just keep spiraling up. So like, what if it all goes well? You're all going to get a copy of these slides. I did include some work from home stretches in here for y'all because I know that for me, like I sit at a computer all day and my shoulders are like rocks. So I love a good home stretch. If you've been with us before, you might remember these tongue twisters. These are my favorite tongue twisters in Irish, Spanish, and Turkish, respectively. Tongue twisters are also a really great way to both physically and like socially relax, whether it's with your students or with your colleagues. And I know as adults, it might feel silly to be like, hey, what's your favorite tongue twister? But we could use some silliness, Again, we are very short on time. We are at time right now, so I won't keep you, but I would love to invite y'all to think about if there's anything that we have done here today that you'd like to bring to your next staff meeting. And if any of these are things that you feel like would be helpful to do in community with your coworkers. For our checkout, I would love if y'all could share in the chat, what is something that you do by yourself to create joy for yourself? So we've got dancing, reading, eating, sleeping, cooking, listening to music, meditating, spending time in nature, exercising, and computer games, video games. So feel free to drop a number for those in the chat. And then I do have a couple more professional development sessions coming up. I'm going to drop all these links in the chat at one time, not to be overwhelming, but so you have them all. We also have our learning communities, and I want to make sure that I get all of these in here. And we do have a feedback survey. I know I'm rushing. We do have a feedback survey that we would appreciate y'all taking if you have a moment. Ooh, lots of good things that y'all are doing to take care of yourselves. I love seeing all of this in the chat. Cooking, I am not a great cook. It is not a skill that I have honed in on, so I always appreciate when other people are good cooks. Lots of wonderful things there. So our next professional development sessions, this one was probably the most fun that I've had all year, but our next one is on artificial intelligence and how you can use that to cultivate belonging in your classrooms and your communities. Again, all these links are in the chat. We've got 2 different workshops for Be Kind Online Day, and then our last session of the school year is going to be identifying the path to burnout. If you want to talk more about what we've covered here today, and all those links are in the chat for you. I also dropped the links for the Sandy Hook Promise Learning Center and the Beyond Differences Professional Development and Learning Community. Tons and tons of great information and resources in those. I dropped a link for the feedback survey. You can scan all these QR codes if you want, or the links are in the chat. Same thing. Thank you so much. I know that we are over time. Thank you for the gift of your time. Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for taking the time for yourself for a little bit of regeneration, for taking this space. It's been really wonderful to be here with you, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I will stick around for another minute or two if anybody has any questions, but you will get access to all of the slides, all the links, and again, thank you so much for being here. Thanks, y'all. Your comments in the chat are really sweet.